Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Schmo Show. I'm your host, Steve Ryan, and I am a Schmo.
And I'm Cairo, and I'm also a Schmo.
I legit thought you lost like your audio for a little bit, and I'm like, this is way too early in the show for that bullshit.
I've been dealing with internet problems since I moved into the new place, right?
Of course.
And I was able to get a hold of Spectrum support, and I have confirmed that the modem that they gave me, the new one, is just broken. It doesn't work. But it's the exact same model as the one that they wanted me to send back, so I just keep the old one. But I am using the new Wi-Fi router, so I've been trying to figure out getting that set up and everything. So it's been just terrible trying to figure anything out in the meantime. So I'm hopeful, though, that because it's a new router, maybe I'll have less disconnect problems, and it's a new place. But remains to be seen. I think that's just a Spectrum being shit problem.
Here's a question for you, right?
Yeah.
For all of you who do not know, Michigan, the greatest state of all time, is going through a heat wave with the rest of the country, like half the country. How is the ventilation in your new condo?
Shockingly good. It is crazy. Yeah, I'm sorry. It genuinely has surprised me being here, where it gets hot, but because there is water really close, and with the way that two of the doors are set up, I can't do it today because it's way too hot, but when it's in the 70s, I can just open both the doors and have the screens in, and it pulls massive air through. It's genuinely insane.
Jealous.
I have never lived anywhere with this good of airflow, and I don't understand how it works. It doesn't make sense to me, but it does, and I'm glad for it.
My little apartment, obviously being in an apartment, all the windows face one direction.
Yes.
So no airflow whatsoever. We got one of those large box fans, that have two fans in it, so you can circulate air inside specific rooms. Yeah. The cat hates it. Houdini absolutely despises it because it blocks his favorite window to watch, outside.
Poor guy.
Yeah. I feel really bad about it, but we kind of need it to survive in this heat.
Yeah.
Last night, I installed the window fan, and he's basically this is bullshit. I'm going to go find another window. Fuck you guys. I get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, but first thing I want to do is kind of just check in on the cat, because I do feel a little bad to take away his favorite window. I find him in our kitchen, at the kitchen window, just chilling. He looks at me, I pet him, tell him I love him, and that, he's a good boy. Go use the bathroom. I come back to our bedroom, and usually, when I go into bed, I do what I call, the reverse push-up, where I basically put both my hands in the bed to kind of find my space, and then push, carry myself down. Houdini's a black cat. He's a tuxedo cat, so he's black. Can't really see him at night. I put my hands down to do the reverse push-up, and I grab just this fistful of Houdini for a brief moment. He just makes that little cat chirping sound at me, the brrrr. And I realized this motherfucker, to get back at me, took my half of the bed. So
nice.
It's 3 a.m. I'm standing there like a fucking idiot, looking at my cat as he's just what are you gonna do about this? I used to have somewhere I'd like to perch at night. Oh man, you should take the window. Isn't the breeze nice, human? So that was my evening. Luckily, I'm in pretty decent shape, so I could squeeze a little bit in the bed without the cat having to move. But he was just like staying there the whole night, just giving me like this small sliver of the bed because I had to fuck his window habits.
I mean, seems fair is fair, I guess, right?
Fair is fair. You know, the room felt amazing. We woke up to 85 degrees in our apartment. We had the AC on all day, and we're just at a nice 78 finally. I hate this apartment sometimes.
Do you have, I'm just curious, like your own unit, AC unit for your apartment, or is it like a building thing?
We do have our own AC unit. It's in the living room, so it doesn't travel the best into the other rooms, like my office room.
Gotcha.
When we got this apartment, we had like one old one from the 70s.
Yeah.
And one day, randomly, it just breaks. We have this maintenance man comes in. Really nice guy, fellow Slav. He has this very thick Slavic Eastern European accent. And basically, he looks at our fucking AC unit, our old 70s one, and he goes, did that belong in Jurassic Park? Yes? And then he rips it out of the fucking wall. He's like, I'll be back with the new one. Yes. Love that man, because that AC unit they gave us is objectively better in every sense of the word.
Yeah, I had a unit in mind that they were able to just recharge, and that thankfully seemed to do the job. So, but it doesn't sound like that would help out in your case. It's unfortunate.
It was very unfortunate. I think it was a case.
But I did know the pain though, because I would have mine running like constantly overnight, and it would never get below like 72, if even that.
Yeah, I feel that. I think it also sucks because our heating system in our apartment building is a boiling water kind of radiation system. So basically there's always water boiling underneath the apartment building, and then there's these vents all throughout, which only serves to radiate heat. And as long as the water boils, it will always be heating our apartment in some way. And I hate that. It makes it really hot in here really fast. Which it wouldn't be a problem if we had proper ventilation, but do you see why my apartment's so cheap?
I guess pros and cons, right?
Pros and cons. Thoughts and prayers, everybody. I'm on my, what is this, 6th liquid death of the last 24 hours in this heat wave.
Yeah, gotta keep hydrated.
Keep hydrated, homies, or die. How's been your time, Kyril?
Man, it's been busy. There's just been stuff all the time. Yeah, but looking forward to hopefully getting a slower week coming up. That'll be nice. And with the 4th of July, that'll be a day off, so also good.
I can't wait for that. I actually got tickets to live stream Ozzy Osbourne's last concert, and that's going to be on the 5th.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be like a whole day event for me.
It's kind of wild hearing. Who was it I heard about? Billy Joel, I think. I heard was doing, not with a live stream thing, but stopping touring. And I was just like, I don't believe you. I don't think you can stop. You didn't get into the place you are today by having art restraint in sharing your art, and I don't think you're going to be able to stop at this point. So we'll see. I feel like Ozzy's kind of the same way, where dude's just going to, even if he says it's the last one, as long as he's not on his deathbed, he'll be doing something.
Did you hear he has Parkinson's now, though?
Oh, okay. No, I hadn't. That definitely sucks.
Yeah, that's why I think he's going out with one last show. I truthfully don't know if he will even finish this show. But if Ozzy Osbourne's going to die on stage, hell yeah, I'm telling my motherfucking grandchildren I witnessed that live. Also, the set list for that show is really fucking cool. Black Sabbath is reuniting for Ozzy. Soundgarden is getting Steven Tyler on the vocals to reunite. Guns N' Roses is going to be there. Metallica. A whole fuck ton of people, actually. It is just kind of a steal. $30 for a ticket. Like, even no service fees. Barely any service fees. Just tax. Going
That's
to
very
live
cool.
shows is a nightmare nowadays because of those fucking service fees.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the news, Kyril? I sure hope nothing terrible happened against humanity last night.
We, the U.S. government, the royal we, may have done a slight, very small, we do it so often, it's basically like it doesn't happen at all.
Slap the wrist.
Bombing in the Middle East.
Is that bombing a war crime, by the way? Because I'm pretty sure it was unannounced.
I don't know.
Fair.
My gut says no, but I don't know.
Understandable.
Part of the problem with like war crime stuff is that you have to be in war to do it, otherwise it's just like really bad and probably still illegal on other means. But this particular situation is that let me see if I can find the exact date. Thankfully, it's pretty new, so I should be able to find it pretty quick. On June 22nd, so it was at the very, I guess, time zones, right? Time zones. So, like 12 hours ago, the United States dropped 3 bombing runs on alleged nuclear facilities in Iran. Wikipedia is crediting this as part of the Iran-Israel war, and that is, I think, going to be very clear in a couple of days, and given the rhetoric that's going around, that also very much lines up with that. I would note, though, that Trump hating Iran, very oddly, honestly, in hindsight, has been kind of the status quo. So seeing the guy bomb alleged nuclear sites is kind of a little bit par for the course.
Yeah.
Regardless, because we'll get into more of that geopolitics stuff later, the crux of it is that this is in the aftermath of the Israel-Iran conflict that we've seen go on for a couple of days now. The short of that is that Israel launched some missiles into Iran. Iran launched some missiles back. There's been fatalities on both sides. It's relatively, it's not good by any means, but on the scale of wars, it's relatively subdued so far. And there has been the looming question since it started as to whether or not the United States would be getting themselves involved, particularly from the perspective of, will the U.S. stop selling arms to Israel to not specifically get involved with a war in Iran? And that has not happened, obviously. And expecting it to happen was a little bit of a pipe dream. But I also think that the fact that we've jumped so quickly to carrying out airstrikes ourselves is pretty quick.
It's just bad for business if we don't stand up for our customers, dude.
Yeah.
My insurance company would do the same thing for me.
I don't believe you.
This is the part where I would make some ludicrous scenario to seem like I know what I'm talking about. The problem is I work for an insurance company, and I feel like I shouldn't advertise our competitors. But at insert farm. I know. I almost said the name of the company. Insert insurance company here. We will always fight for our clients.
So let's...
Oh.
No, I'm just trying to think how to, like, start this, because there's, like, 3 different lines that I want to go down, but I don't know how to put them in order yet. I think chronological is probably the easy way to structure it, because a lot of the frustration and just, like, what the hell is going on about this ties back to a couple of months ago when the United States Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified to Congress specifically that based on all information that the U.S. security and, intelligence communities and our allies had, there was no evidence that Iran possessed nuclear capabilities, nor that in any short, relevant time frame they would be able to gain nuclear abilities. And this has been, like, it goes all the way back to 2001, right? That was the pretense for the U.S. invasion of Iraq, was they have nuclear capabilities, when they didn't. And we now know, in hindsight and with history and evidence, they explicitly didn't. That the nuclear capabilities that they had was for the purpose of energy sector related things. And that the processes required in order to refine the raw materials that they had into a form that could actually be used effectively in a weapon were things that they did not possess, and that the work that they were doing was very clearly towards making nuclear energy facilities, not nuclear weapons. And as far as I have seen in this entire situation, even with the fact that Trump he did blow up the Iran nuclear deal in his last term, there's no evidence that Iran has actual nuclear capabilities. And it is very telling that they keep calling these nuclear facilities, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's technically correct in the loosest of definitions, but it really buries the lead as to what they're doing here. It's a show of force more than anything, trying to get Iran to step into some sort of a line that Israel forced them across in the first place. Iran was not the aggressor in this circumstances, and their government, abhorrent as it is, isn't the one that pushed them into the spot. That was Israel launching strikes on them first.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it makes us look really bad.
Yeah. Gonna have to see how France responds, and then we can dust off the freedom fries. It really does feel like going in circles, though, with this especially, given the similarities. It's like we jumped past the part of 9/11 where we're the ones actually being attacked, you know?
Yeah. I feel like we're just a bunch of bullies doing this, quite frankly. And, like, I get it. I understand the pretense of everything going on. But at the same time, it's like, you would think they would at least, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Fake evidence of, like, actual nuclear weapons being in Iran. Just because there are nuclear facilities. Nuclear energy does a lot of fucking things. I don't know if you know that or not, like, Kyril, being a scientist and whatnot. I'm sorry. It's just bullshit. It's openly transparent, and it's very clear there was no forethought put into this.
We're actually, I sent this in the Discord, like, the day before, where I hate being right about it, but we had this quote coming from Trump when he was being asked about Iran, and Trump said in response, quote, "You are in danger talking to me right now. Do you know that? You are in danger talking to me right now, so I should probably get out of here, but you guys are actually in danger." And I feel like that really paints the picture as to the information that he's being fed, because we know from the congressional testimony of Tulsi Gabbard that what Iran's capabilities are, nuclear and military wise. And it seems like people are just lying to him as well, and he's both dumb and old and believes them. And it really fucking seems like they've somehow convinced Trump that if they don't act, Iran either already has or will have the capability to kill Trump in the US with some sort of a strike in the first place. And it's just complete nonsense.
Didn't Iran put like a bounty on Trump's head at one point?
Probably.
Yeah. I do remember
they're shitty people, no question, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the frustrating thing here, is it's like I don't think anybody wants to be put in the position of defending a country, a government like Iran, but at the same time, what our government's doing is just complete bullshit, and it goes way over the line of what would be expected.
I agree. I think that's why I choose my words carefully there, because what's the word I'm looking for? I think I sympathize with the people more than the country itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's not that long ago that you can look back in Iran's history and see that they were a vibrant, very successful nation and culture.
Yeah.
And it's only relatively recently that they have slid backwards into the authoritarianism and misogyny that they've been dealing with for, the last 40 years, give or take.
Reminds me of somebody I know.
So, God, I don't even know where to go next. We'll get to Tucker Carlson later. I'm gonna put the pin on that because we had a piece that came out relatively recently, per CNN's reporting 16 minutes ago, that has helped me to have some understanding as to where the rhetoric around the impeachment rhetoric is coming from, right? Because we talked about this before the show, how the fact that the U.S. government has launched missiles and bombing strikes and drone strikes in a foreign country without congressional approval isn't new. So why is this being latched onto so tightly? And I have the actual answer for that now. Part of the way that presidents have been allowed to get away with these, doing war actions but not actually declaring war has been through what is called the War Powers Act. Mm-hmm. And part of the War Powers Act is that the president is required to notify Congress before taking these acts to, in theory, allow Congress time to either reply or to, voice their criticisms, launch impeachment actions, right, if something particularly as egregious is happening. And it really is a deeply flawed framework for trying to promote accountability in the government, because if somebody's going to do, if your president is going to do something that could impeach them, and they're going to clearly violate the law already, they could just not tell you and just do it anyways, right? It is entirely reliant on people acting in good faith, and we have an entire administration right now that is completely built up around not doing that. But to that point, the specific thing that happened in this case that is different from prior administrations, including Trump's, even within the Trump administration earlier this year, is that in the process of allegedly complying with the War Powers Act, Trump specifically, or I guess Trump's team, specifically his administration, notified congressional Republicans about the forthcoming strike, but specifically omitted congressional Democrats. And that is the part where they're talking about impeachment from, is that is what should be, at least, a very clear violation of the War Powers Act. Specifically, House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune were notified, while House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer were notified only after the strikes had happened and just before the public announcements. And with that, we can get into the actual CNN headline here. Because Republican Representative Ronnie Jackson of Texas, because where else would he be from, is making some pretty strong implications here that I hope someone in his, one of his coworkers tears him a new one over. This quote is Representative Jackson commending President Trump for not notifying congressional Democrats, saying, quote, "We do not have trustworthy people in Congress, especially on the left side of the aisle." Implying that if Trump had told if Trump had told Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer, they would have somehow leaked that to the Iranians, which seems like an extremely fucked up accusation to make, and one that should not be at all taken lightly. Like, we don't have trustworthy people in Congress. Okay, there's two people specifically who should have been notified about this. Which one of those two do you think shouldn't have been notified? It's not a hard, it's literally 50-50, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
I'm just thinking,
it's so frustrating. It's all so dumb and frustrating. We had the fucking Iran nuclear deal. This was done 10 years ago. It was done. And then Trump blew it up, and now 10 years later, they're using that as the pretense to do these military actions.
Yeah.
And man, we have a statement from France, Germany, and the UK. "We call upon Iran to engage in negotiations leading to an agreement that addresses all concerns associated with its nuclear program. We stand ready to contribute to that goal in coordination with all parties." Great. We had that already. It was done. I won't be surprised in the slightest because I'm sure Iran's probably going to do that because they don't want to get fucking bombed again. But I guarantee whatever deal comes out of this is going to be almost exactly the same as the deal that was blown up before. Because the deal that was blown up before was actually good. It's the exact same shit that Trump did with the, what is it called? NAFTA replacement?
Oh, yeah.
What was the NAFTA? The United States-Mexico-Canada agreement that took place July 1st, 2020. That was fucking negotiated by Trump in his term by his administration, and now he's pissed off about it now that he's back in office. It's the same shit.
You think he's going to get a Peace Prize when he negotiates this new deal?
Wouldn't that be the cherry on top?
He wants it bad, dude. It's like the one thing his money can't buy.
What did they actually give Obama his for?
Good question.
I can't remember.
Obama.
Extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between peoples. Right. Basically nothing, and a lot of the undertones was that, at the time at least, because he was just a black U.S. president.
Yeah, dude. DEI Peace Prize. Mr. Obama, I know you're listening to this. That's not a genuine joke. That was just too funny not to say.
Yeah. Man.
What's
Moving
up?
past that,
Yeah.
we have a quick gross thing to go through that JD Vance said. We have JD Vance was on NBC's Meet the Press earlier today with NBC's Christian Welker talking about the situation with Iran, getting statements related to the U.S. strikes there, etc., etc. JD Vance being JD Vance, though, couldn't hit a ball off a fucking tee and just says the weirdest shit. And it is a really good example, like a little encapsulation of why it is that we've had all of these like mini governments in the Trump administration since January, where you have very clear and different goals going on in the background as to who's actually calling the shots, and none of those people calling the shots have been named JD Vance, because he's just a weird fucking guy. We get two really golden quotes here. Quote, "We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program." Complete nonsense. Makes zero sense in the slightest. I know you had heard about this one. Do you have any particular thoughts on it, other than just like, what the fuck is he talking about?
JD Vance is a master of trying to sound like he means something. But when you actually like look at it like critically, he's just that weird dude who really wants to make it sound like he's smarter than he actually is.
Isn't it funny that that is exactly what Trump is, but like so much better at it?
Well, yeah.
Like, because you can take so many of Trump's like memorable like quotes and statements and moments that he has had on stage, right? And you can watch the clip, and I don't think it's unreasonable to say that he is good at saying nonsense in a way that sounds like he understands what he's saying, right? And then you take that exact piece and you print it out and read it, and it is complete bullshit. Not even just bullshit, it is incomprehensibly stupid. There is no thought going on, there's no logic, it is just complete brain to mouth spewing.
Donnie is a gifted orator, I would say, in the sense that he has obviously spent a lot of time practicing how to talk, how to phrase a sentence, how to deliver a point. And that's great. But as soon as, like you said, if you take anything Donnie says and like write it down, it's word salad. Yeah.
And we have JD Vance, who is trying to do the same thing, but he's not a good talker. He doesn't speak well. So you get these quotes on paper that look insane, and then you can go and find the actual clips of them, and it sounds just as insane.
JD Vance knows how to sound smart. He has no skills nor the imagination to make it actually work, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because the idea of his phrase is, we're not blank, we are just a nuanced version of blank, obviously has some merit to it. Here's the problem about it, though. If you actually think critically on it for like 3 minutes, you know there's nothing of substance actually being said.
Well, and there's the whole fact where he says, we're at war with Iran's nuclear program. You cannot be definitionally at war with a part of Iran without also being at war with Iran. And you can't be at war with anyone without Congress approving it. So he tries to have this zinger, this gotcha, and he just throws himself under the bus doing it. Because anybody who's going to ask about this, you know, I guarantee the press corps is lining up to be like, President Trump, JD Vance said that you were at war with Iran's nuclear program. Are we at war with Iran? He's going to be like, no, of course we're not at war with Iran, because that would be stupid, and we all know that that's not allowed without an act of Congress. Like, even I'm gonna call this before Tuesday. Vance is gonna get thrown under the bus for part of this. So we've got 36 hours. In the next 36 hours, I would not be surprised to see him just get completely thrown under the bus. And in the way that we've seen Trump do it, where he doesn't even know that Vance said this, right? He's not watching fucking Meet the Press. He doesn't know that this happened. He's not going to be reading Politico. Someone's going to ask him about it, and he's just going to be like, no. What are you talking about? When it's a quote from his actual fucking vice president. Because that's just how this administration works now.
Yeah.
The other real noteworthy quote we got from Vance here, I'm just going to read through this. I certainly empathize with Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then, we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives.
I couldn't hear him with Donnie's dick in his mouth.
It's real hard, but yeah. Thankfully, that's why we have the transcripts.
Again, it just... I don't know, man. I don't understand JD.
Here's the other part of this, because like with every single decision that this administration has made, it is equal parts nonsense to start, but also self-contradicting, right? We had this with the tariffs, where they were both supposed to replace the income tax and be the sole provider of the money for our government, but also they're a negotiating tactic to make other countries come to the table with us so that we can then get rid of the tariffs to get better trade deals. One of those requires the tariffs to be in place forever, and the other one inherently has the goal of getting the tariffs gone as soon as possible so that we can get deals made. We have the same thing here. Exact same thing here, but with it related to Israel. Israel didn't attack Iran for no fucking reason. They did it because they basically slaughtered the entire population of Palestine, and their government is looking for the next military target that they can have to continue their, military powers and strongman appearances for as long as possible. And Iran has been a long-standing adversary of Israel, politically, religiously. So it makes sense that, hey, let's go to this other country that's relatively nearby and we can start shooting our rockets over there instead. In this case, we have Vance, and this has been largely the line that the Trump administration has been taking so far on this in general, is that we want this to be an opportunity. This is a quote from Vance here. We want this is an opportunity for the Iranians to take the smart path, implying coming to some sort of a negotiations to stop their nuclear program that their Secretary of National Intelligence said that they don't have, but that's beside the point. Because for Israel, that's not going to be good enough for them. Israel instigated this. Israel wants a fight. Having negotiations doesn't benefit them. And if Iran comes to the table, which they probably will because they did before, they don't want to get bombed by the US or, God forbid, get into a proper fucking war with us. But Israel does. Arguably, Israel needs someone to lash out at. Otherwise, the paper-thin facade of their leadership just gets stripped away.
Yeah.
So, not a great spot. We'll have to see which way it ends up being. And unfortunately, like with the tariff situation, it probably ends up somewhere in between. When we end up in another, as another part of a forever war in the Middle East, where instead of drone strikes and whatever going down on Afghanistan and then Iraq and lately Yemen, we just do the same thing with Iran. And nobody wins. And people die.
Yeah, no.
So the last part of this that I want to go to is the very fascinating aspect of a number of far, far right politicians being vocally against these strikes on Iran. we had, let me see if I can find this, because there's two that I know for sure, but I know that there's more. Yeah, that's probably true. Well, the two big ones are all that really matters to paint the picture here. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker fucking Carlson were vocally against the prospect of America going into any sort of military actions with Iran. And those two are poignant because Marjorie Taylor Greene has been a piece of shit and not so secretly, a supporter of the Russian government for a very long time now. And Tucker Carlson even more so. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there was just the biggest propaganda piece you could imagine, where Tucker was in actually in Russia at a Russian supermarket, just taking like an hour to gush about how much better the Russian supermarket was than American supermarkets.
I remember this. It was so fucking funny. What is Tucker Carlson to the Russian people? I'm not saying like the government informant that he obviously is, but like culturally, what's he represent?
Abso-fucking-lutely nothing.
Why the fuck was he there?
Because Russia paid him to be.
So weird.
And that ties into the social media sentiment that we've been seeing around this. I know for a fact, at least Theo Vaughn, who is a far-right podcaster type, and others whose names I don't recall at this moment, have also been vocally against the prospect of this. And we had, what would this be? I think this was last year. I'm pretty sure it was last year. The end of last summer, the publicly made information from Biden's DOJ that there were dozens of American, social media pundit types that were in the pocket of the Republican government, or the Russian government, where the Russian government had made these like shell companies basically that they were using to funnel literally millions of dollars to these far-right Republican podcaster types in order to sow dissent and to manage the narratives that were being talked about. And the aftermath of that was basically these guys just being like, I don't know. I didn't know that, so you can't charge me with anything. But now we have the situation with Iran, and all of these people with ties to Russia are suddenly very vocally against it. Which is particularly strange because Israel also has very deep fingers, very, deep connections within both the Democratic and Republican parties when it comes to controlling narratives and funding campaigns, all that sort of things. So usually a pro-Israel stance is the one that is almost universally taken. But now that Iran is involved, everything changes.
Yeah, because they got woke.
It came woke. It came to a head very publicly, where Tucker Carlson had an interview with good old Ted Cruz. And there's a part of this that I'll get to in a little bit, but why Ted Cruz is a very funny part. But in that discussion, Tucker was hard in the paint going at Cruz, which is very funny because Ted Cruz is a giant piece of shit.
Oh, totally.
Probably not as big of a piece of shit as Tucker Carlson, but you see the guy getting dragged, you're gonna like that. It's fun to watch. And it was just like one after the other, and it was complete nonsense kind of things, but it's the exact kind of rhetoric that these podcaster, online personalities have been using for a while, right? Where Tucker asks Ted something like, do you know how many people live in Iran? And of course Ted Cruz doesn't fucking know that, and of course Tucker Carlson looked up that specific number just before this interview so that he could have it out, and Ted's like, no. And Tucker starts hammering in like, well, you don't even know anything about the country you're talking about bombing. And it goes further than that, where you have then he talks about like, okay, do you know the cultural makeup of it? It's just like all this stuff that truly, completely, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Iran has 92 million people or 74 million people. It doesn't matter if they're 98% Muslim or 60% Christian. It doesn't fucking matter. But we have Tucker Carlson ramming this shit down Ted Cruz's throat, making him look dumb in the process, and everybody's eating it up because it's enjoyable. But it begs the question as why. And the why is that Iran and Russia, at least, obviously completely unconfirmed, this is the speculation, the assumptions that are going on, but it is well known that Iran and Russia are very strong strategic allies, and they have many agreements going back a very long time, and Russia specifically is a supplier of arms to Iran. So, with Russia already being at war at Ukraine, the implication is that they can't afford to also support another war in Iran. And that strain on their manufacturing of weapons would be more than they could handle. That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
But it is the kind of thing where you have these people being like, oh no, we're completely against this situation for the completely wrong reasons. The other part of that I haven't seen come up publicly yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is a way to align those interests, the pro-Israel and the pro-Russia ones, would be if in the situation where Iran doesn't try to negotiate, because if Iran tries to negotiate, then you can't. If you are the one who blows up the negotiations and not Iran, it makes you look like shit. So you can't have Iran be trying to negotiate to start with. But in the case that they don't, the pro-Russia on both fronts one would be to weaken U.S. military supplies going to Ukraine and to divert those to Israel instead. So
we're just playing with people's lives.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's fucked.
It really is fucked.
But that's where we're at. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like, a part of me wants to just call out, Vietnam Part 2. But quite frankly, it's not that bad yet.
I did actually, I was curious to look this up. We're both technically over the age of conscription. We had I think it's 25. I have to double check it again.
Was till 35.
18 to 25.
Oh, holy shit.
For selective service, right? That's the selective service part of it. Obviously, if we go to war, they will very happily throw out any sort of restrictions or whatever they need just to get the amount of cannon fodder that they think that they were required. But yeah, selective service is 18 to 25.
To be fair, I don't think they really have a need for cannon fodder at the moment. I feel like there's enough cannon fodder in our overly funded military already, but what do I know?
Totally agree.
Like, isn't the military at this point so overpopulated that they have to, find anything they need to just cut the fat at any moment?
Yeah, I mean, they have enough of them that they sent, 800 Marines to fucking LA to fuck around for a weekend?
Oh, yeah. They just got, an LA weekend vacation. That's, no big deal. God, those protests were scary.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't call them scary.
Okay,
the whole thing has been... Yeah.
No, I guess I will preface, they felt scary at the time.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was going to say, just to be clear, the scary part is the government's response to them, right?
Yeah.
Where you had the situation where protests were happening, and there were very isolated, violent parts of it that were explicitly being handled by the LA Police Department. Governor Newsom, the LAPD chief of police, top to bottom in the chain of command. They're like, yeah, there's been some violent parts. We have it under control. Most of the people are being completely peaceful. And it wasn't until the National Guard got involved that things ratcheted up because the government was trying to, make a show.
It really was a fucking show after the Marines got involved. Because, like, I think it really depends where you got your coverage on it. Like, I got everything secondhand, but the moment the Marines got involved, I started watching the live streams and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Like, secondhand, they would make you believe there was a fucking war going on over there.
Right.
Which was quite the impressive fucking propaganda piece, I'll say.
It just was complete propaganda. It was completely fabricated.
Like, sure, it was kind of fucky-wucky a little bit with the protests, but, like, honestly, like, I think we just wasted all those Marines' time with sending them there. Yeah.
That's part of what I was going to talk about for one of our other stories is the ongoing litigation that's happening as to whether the Trump administration was legally able to deploy the National Guard in that case, because there is extremely clear precedent that should have said no. And in fact, the last time that a sitting U.S. president deployed the National Guard against the wishes of a state governor was during the segregation period, where the National Guard was sent to desegregate the schools. Like that's the level that it had to get to, right, for the last time this happened.
Donnie, he's such a history buff. He loves taking out, like, his weird, obscure historical references that, maybe they should have just stayed as references and not actually, like, brought back into contemporary times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not good. Not good. And we'll have to see how it goes. But right now, the way that, because this situation was brought to a district court in California, who very quickly issued a temporary restraining order, telling the National Guard to, basically removing the control of the National Guard from the federal government. That was immediately appealed to the Ninth Circuit of Appeals, who stayed that temporary restraining order and who has been having hearings since to determine whether or not that was the correct decision. And so far, it seems like they're probably going to side with Trump, which is really scary.
Yeah.
Because the, very short version of the arguments that is being made is that the federal government can send ICE, or, in this case, basically any federal employee. They can send any federal employee to do a thing, and if the people living where that thing is happening do anything that could in any way be construed to be a threat to the government employee doing their job, the president can then federalize the National Guard to serve as protectors for those government officials or federal employees.
What's
so the only thing that it takes... Yeah. The scary part is that you can have an order from the government to send ICE in large numbers to any state to have them arrest anyone, regardless of the validity of that. In particular, if what the ICE is doing seems to be illegal, you can do it in a way that will elicit a reaction from the local people there, so that you can then nationalize the National Guard to then create more of these situations. It is worth noting that credit to the people of LA is very well due for the vast majority of them having, the restraint to protest peacefully, so that there was never a chance for Trump to try and invoke the Insurrection Act during this whole thing. Because that was like the end game at the start of this, right? They want a situation, because this is straight from the Project 2025 playbook, invoke a situation where you can declare the Insurrection Act, You can declare martial law and do whatever the fuck you want at that point. And they didn't get anywhere near that happening. In particular, huge credit is due during the No Kings protest that happened last weekend, where they had massive numbers of people, and they were all just doing protest peacefully. And that isn't to say that, non-peaceful protest is wrong. There's absolutely times and places for that. But given the nature of what was happening, the restraint from so many people to not give them that easy out is worth noting.
No, I think the No Kings protest was actually a massive success.
Yes, very much.
I think Donnie really shot himself in the metaphorical foot with that, sending the Marines over, because all it did was pretty much amplify how well the protest was working in LA. Yep. And really, it just sparked more shit.
Yeah. I guarantee it made a lot of people angry enough seeing what was happening there to go out to their local protests.
Oh, yeah. Big credit to my in-laws. They actually went there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the other news. And honestly, with what's left, it's kind of 50-50 for good and bad. So, let's start with some of the good news. Mahmoud Khalil is no longer detained.
Woo!
Fucking finally. His release from ICE detention has been complied with, and that is like the bare fucking minimum, right? The bad part of it is he's giving a press conference after and talking about how there are hundreds of other people who shouldn't be there but are, obviously, in similar situations as he was. And it is really just because he was an individual who was in the news, it seems like, that he was able to be released at all. And there's so many other people who have been detained that don't have that publicity to garner that attention. But yeah, regardless, Khalil has been released from detention. So that is really good. Wow. It's the way that due process should fucking work.
Due process? No thank you.
Now we can get to some bad news.
That was due with a D-O, by the way. That was the due process? No. Bad news.
Bad news. A federal judge has said that it is too late to order the recovery of Trump officials' Signal messages. And if that's not bad enough, because this is Signal, just a reminder, is the messaging application that will automatically delete messages after a certain period of time. That's why it has long been held to not be, appropriate for U.S. government officials to utilize it, and why they went and made their own fucking messaging app. Regardless, because that wasn't enough, the judge said, this is from the piece, though Boasberg ordered Rubio to ask Bondi to act on the messages, quote, not yet gone with the wind, he also noted that the Attorney General has the discretion to ignore that request. So save the rest of the messages, please, but you don't actually have to do it, because I just told you don't have to do it.
The duality of the U.S. court system. We got it on paper, at least.
Coming from the same person.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
Now, what if those were emails?
Right. Yeah. It's just, obviously another very blatant example of the way that the MAGA people, they don't have, what was it? I can't remember. It was a good piece about how if the MAGA people didn't have something, they would have nothing at all, and I can't remember it.
Money?
If they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. That's what it was.
That's really funny. I like that.
Yeah. They don't care about any of this shit. They don't care about Hillary's emails. Maybe some of them do, but the vast majority clearly don't, because their people are doing the same thing, and it's totally justified.
Oh, totally. You see, they're the good guys.
On that note, I do highly recommend. There's a video posted a few months ago now by ContraPoints on YouTube about conspiracy and conspiracy theories. That is very good, but like honestly, understanding the way that conspiracy theories get spread in general really helps to highlight just how the mindset of these folks, you know, the same people who got swept up in the QAnon type of stuff, right? Like explicit conspiracy theories, Pizzagate, how it is that their processing works, where there is nothing that you can tell them that will make them break from the conspiracy. That is just further proof that the conspiracy is actually real.
It's such a weird confirmation bias, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because like the sheer acknowledgement of the conspiracy on any fundamental level implies it's like actual realness. I think like the only way you could theoretically like get them off a conspiracy theory would be ignoring it and just hope something else takes their attention.
Yeah, ideally, but unfortunately the conspiracies are coming from the president of the fucking United States.
Well, at least no one listens to him.
In our bad news stuff, though,
yes.
We had a Supreme Court ruling this week.
Bad news in the Supreme Court? What could you possibly mean?
United States versus Scrimeti. This is a case related to a law passed in Tennessee that denies healthcare for transgender minors. The ruling was 6-3, upholding the Tennessee law, and the real problem from this is, like, obviously, the decision itself is pretty gross. The way that they argued it, though, is the really horrifying part. And in particular, Amy Coney Barrett went out of her way to write a concurrent, separate opinion that goes even further than the majority's. So, the short of it version is, in this case, in the case of any constitutional question related to discrimination, if a law is believed to be discriminating on the basis of gender, it is given what is known as heightened scrutiny, where the standard for whether this is constitutional or not is a much higher bar to clear. In the case of the Supreme Court, they ruled that because this bill does not discriminate based on gender, but instead discriminates based on age, because it's only going for minors, it does not have to meet the bar of heightened scrutiny, and in fact, should be treated with the lowest level of scrutiny. And based on that interpretation, allowed it to remain on the books.
So I have a question. And this is unrelated to most of the Supreme Court stuff. This is just me being an ignorant fuck. What does healthcare in terms of transgender minors even look like? Because, like, in my mind, I always imagine, like, a minor who discovers they are transgender to be kind of like a unicorn. Because I think it takes a certain level of mental maturity that a lot of kids don't have access to discover you're trans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Almost without exception, exclusively hormone-related surgery.
Okay.
The number of instances of a transgender minor having a surgery is exceedingly rare.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah, and almost always not covered by insurance.
Never.
Because it is cosmetic, fundamentally.
Yeah.
In this case, though, particularly, like that is a very good point of it, but I wanted to point out as well how the law in Tennessee, in fact, does not discriminate based on age. Because if you are a cisgender male, who has a genetic condition that causes you to have a low amount of testosterone, you can still get testosterone treatments prescribed by your doctor for that. If you're a cisgender woman who has low estrogen or has high testosterone, you can get hormonal prescriptions to treat that condition. It's only when the specific situation is regarding a transgender person that this Tennessee law kicks in and forbids that access. Which certainly sounds like something happening on the basis not of age.
It sounds like discrimination.
Yes, and that's the thing. That is one of the things that is so frustrating about interpreting law, is that discrimination is allowed, right?
Yeah.
You can legally discriminate against all sorts of classes of people. And to see the Supreme Court go to such extremes to try and skew what class of discrimination is actually being involved here is just fucked up. But it's not as fucked up as Amy Coney Barrett's. Amy Coney Barrett went so far as to say that because there is not a history of transgender people being discriminated against at all, comparing it to situations like racial discrimination or discrimination based on gender, that there should be no protections for transgender people under the Constitution until that has happened. In short, you are legally allowed to discriminate against this class because that class has not been discriminated against enough yet.
What are we defining as historical discrimination then?
Yes. Never mind the fact that trans people have been discriminated against for how long is history, right? At least modern American history, going back decades.
I'm so curious what kind of world she lives in.
Yeah. A really sad, deeply Christian one.
Because, like, in a weird way, she's kind of implying trans people don't exist. Which is quite the mental gymnastics to go through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I just don't know. I'm just gonna sip my empty can of liquid death and ponder. Good news, there's a little drop at the bottom. Also, my cat's now on my lap. Everybody in the audience, please say hello to Houdini.
Hi, Houdini.
You hear that? Kyrill's saying hi to you. He purring.
Good timing for Cat, because we can get into some good news and then some movies.
Look what you brought. You brought good news. Good boy. That's a good kitty. Okay, what's up?
A federal judge has ruled that anti-woke is racism.
No shit.
No shit. A good example of this through the case is that the government lawyers, while they couldn't give any coherent responses at all, they also couldn't tell them what DEI was. Quote from this. From the judge, where's the support for that? I see no evidence at all. Of course, there is no such evidence of that, which is why the government never presents any, instead pointed to Trump's executive orders, insisting that the president gets to make his own reality. Other than various jurisdictional arguments aimed at getting the case moved to another court, they have no defense. The DOJ's lawyer was not even able to define what DEI is when pressed by the court.
It's almost like they're taking a term that doesn't apply in this actual situation, having a hard time like maladjusting it to like meet their very hyper-specific requirements.
This was in relation to the gutting that the government did for the NIH's grant program. And the results of this, I'm sure it's going to be appealed and probably go up to the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court's going to do whatever gross shit they keep doing. But for now, the NIH's grant program has been reinstated. So yay, that's good news. a really succinct way that I saw it put in some of the discussion about this is that anti-racism is just racism.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it is. And another piece of good news, the judge in the E. Jean Carroll appeals court case has ruled that the Department of Justice cannot take over for Trump while the situation continues. So, in this instance, Trump tried to get the DOJ to take the case to represent him, and the courts have again, because this isn't the first time he tried to do this, they've again told him no. So, yeah.
Where do you think Donnie's lawsuit lawyers are right now?
Well, many of them have been employed as government officials.
I forgot that. Okay, never mind. Shut up.
Yeah. It can be easy to forget that, because I have as well. But every once in a while, you'll be just like, hey, wait a minute. Where did... which was it? Let me double check here.
Imagine being Sidney Powell right now, and she just wasn't on the train late enough to get the cozy government job.
Yeah. Oh, who was it? Alina Habba. That's the one. The notable one, at least. So, yeah. Good stuff. Movies. Only a couple. How to Train Your Dragon 2025, the live action version.
More like How to Make a Franchise Drag On. Ha!
Yeah. I honestly have... I don't think anything to say on this that I haven't said about every other Disney live action thing that we've already talked about, where it's like... Well, I will never, I don't think, fundamentally understand the appeal of something like this instead of just rewatching the original thing that is way better.
So, this is DreamWorks, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's the same
yeah.
world of, like, why are we doing this? What is the point?
Yeah. No, I agree. Cut from the same cloth, but a different company wants in on the action now.
Mm-hmm. I actually saw it, perfectly timely, Cosmonaut Marcus's review / watch along of the Minecraft movie, and it is so fascinating to see how differently the people involved with, like, the actors, how differently they are acting when they're, like, on a set versus on just a green screen, you know?
Yeah.
Where there's, like, parts of, like the first act of the movie, it, like, has some genuinely funny parts because it's just actors who are talented on a set doing good stuff. And then you get into the game part of it, and it's just bad. Because for the actors, what are they supposed to fucking do?
Play Minecraft.
Yeah. More or less. I see scenes, and I don't get why they're pushing it. I get why they're pushing it so hard, because it's very, you know, an iconic part of the animated piece where the, whatever the fuck the kid's name is, first meets Toothless. And that scene just looks so bad.
Oh,
it's like in every single trailer when he first like puts his hand out and touches it. It's like, yeah, I get why you're doing it, but it looks so bad. That's like your one scene. You couldn't make that a little bit better?
So I've actually seen some production art of what they want to make Toothless look like for the live action.
Yeah.
They almost turned him into a fucking frog with wings. Like, I wish I would have saved it now, because it would have been legitimately good to bring up for the show, but I forgot this was going to be on the menu this week, because I keep forgetting this movie exists.
Yeah. Yep. I'm curious. It's been out for a few weeks now. How's it doing at the box office? It's making all the money. Of course it is.
Yeah, dude. What's it competing against?
Oh, absolutely fucking nothing.
Exactly.
What actually is it competing against? What's showing today?
Karate Kid, Elio.
We have Ballerina, Bride Hard, the Brokeback Mountain re-release, a new Final Destination movie, I guess, Karate Kid, Friendship, Lilo and Stitch, Mission Impossible, Sinners is still in theaters. That's kind of crazy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Phoenician Scheme, the Wes Anderson's latest. Secret World of Arrietty re-release, and Thunderbolts, shockingly still in theaters too. I would have expected that to have cleared out by now. So to answer your question, not much.
Yeah. The real battle starts in July, but
Yeah.
okay, I guess since we have like only Elio to also talk about, I guess we cut to the chase. Who do you think is going to win the Great Superman versus Fantastic Four battle of 2025?
Superman.
Superman? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I obviously we only have trailers to go off of really right now, right?
Yeah.
But the way that the Fantastic Four stuff has been presented it's not confident. The Superman stuff oozes confidence in what they're doing, and I personally am very happy to see this take of Superman after it's been like the Man of Steel period, right? It's been like 15 years since we had a Superman that wasn't basically dressed in black. So it's really refreshing, and I think that aspect of it alone, that just being like a Superman movie that isn't fucking depressing, is going to resonate with a lot of people.
So I'm looking into the director of the Fantastic Four. Interesting man right here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's done House MD, WandaVision, fucking Everybody Hates Chris, Fargo.
See, this is... Yeah. Well, sorry, is that Fargo or Fargo the TV show?
That's what I'm trying to find out right now.
I guarantee it's Fargo the TV show.
Fargo the TV show.
Yeah. Peak Marvel right here.
He's only done 2 movies, including Fantastic Four.
Yep. I respected for a while the way that Marvel was able to find up-and-coming actors, directors, etc. to work on their productions, but it feels like they have really jumped the shark on that a long time ago now, and they need to figure something else out because it's not working well enough. Actually, or at the very least, they need to like give these people the time that they need to actually make good things.
That's why I have some hope for this, because I know this got delayed from its original slot.
No, I don't think it's going to be bad, to be clear.
Yeah.
But
it's got James Gunn fighting it. James fucking
Gunn.
Gunn.
James Gunn. Like, have you seen the Superman trailer? It looks fucking great.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard competition. Yeah. We actually do have another movie besides Elio this week.
Oh, what?
Let's go through Elio real quick. What even is this? I have not heard of this.
Pixar,
but it's a children's.
Movie. Yeah.
It's a children's animated movie, so I assume it's made $500 million.
Actually,
for centuries, people have called out to the universe looking for answers. Cosmic misadventure. When Guy is beamed up to the Communiverse, an interplanetary organization with representatives from galaxies far and wide, Elio's all in for the epic undertaking. Mistakenly identifying as Earth's leader, Elio must form new bonds with eccentric alien life forms, navigate a crisis of intergalactic proportions, and somehow discover who and where he is truly... Oh, so he's an alien or some shit already.
Damn.
Like, you can't put that in the fucking synopsis. We've had, like, 5 of these already. That's literally Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh shit, you're right. Elio's Star-Lord.
Like, basically. So you're saying this wasn't doing as well, I guess?
I heard like 20,000, and sorry, 20 million in the box office.
That's not great. 35 so far. Yeah.
Damn.
Brutal.
We are never getting an original Pixar movie ever again.
Nope. Wait, this has 3 directors? Oh, God.
It's cooked.
That's not a good sign. Like, I know we're past the period of, like, the auteur director, but I don't think you can... You can't Daft Punk your way out of this, you know? You really... I'll put it this way. If you're gonna have 3 directors, they better have a deep enough filmography together that they share a Wikipedia page.
I don't think I've ever heard of a movie with more than 2 directors doing well.
Yeah. And even then, it's like the Russo brothers, where
yeah.
You get the dynamic right from square one.
That's honestly where I was thinking of immediately. Even then, the Russo brothers have been hit or miss lately.
I'm curious. I'm checking what these folks have done. Because it's such a strange... Like, why would you put these all on together? All of them have been...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, all of them have been with Pixar for a very long time and are working on a ton of other stuff as well. But, like, why would you have them all share this? I don't know. Maybe it's like a... Oh, maybe not. Let's see where this goes to. I say maybe it's just like a way that Pixar structures themselves for some reason. Oh, that's actually very funny. I clicked onto a Wikipedia link that was talking about Pixar chief Pete Docter talks about new Elio directors, story, and casting changes, and they only have 2 of them on as directors at this point that this was made, which was not even a year ago.
It's so over.
So, what is that? 10 months ago, they kicked off the one director, Molina, and put 2 people in that place instead to finish the movie.
Oh, here's something interesting about Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, what you got?
I think the weakest part Marvel has had lately is the writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked into these writers. One of them hasn't worked on a movie since like 2008. The only other movie he's done in this last decade was War for the Last Planet of the Apes. So I'm throwing him away. Next guy, kind of interesting though, right? Definitely worked with Marvel before. The fucker is the guy who rewrote Ant-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, Detective Pikachu, fucking Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and then he was the main writer on Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, Transformers 1, Thunderbolts, Asterix, and now this.
A good sign.
That's a really weird set. Like,
yeah.
I get rewrite writer is kind of cool, but I just want to know why he has more rewrite credits than he has like actual credits as a main writer.
It is interesting, I think, seeing how differently the landscape has changed for the way movies get made, right?
Yeah.
Where the vast majority of movies still get made and then look for like distribution later, you know? It's a relatively new thing that you have, or I guess it's, how do I do it? Because it used to be way long time ago, it was all monopolistic as fuck. And then they broke up the monopolies and things had to get inherently scattered around, so you had people making movies and then competing for the funding to actually, you know, first make them and then get them distributed. And now you just have monopolies again.
And the movie sucked because of that. I stand by that focus grouping movie as it's in production is terrible, and that's the main thing that's going wrong with a lot of streaming projects today.
I very much agree with that. The last movie I have for this week, 28 years later. The sequel to the sequel of 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. It's still directed by Danny Boyle. Screenwriter is Alex Garland. Not a ton to say this myself, but I do find the just kind of fascinating that this is something that was able to be made in, the current year.
Yeah. It's kind of weirdly nostalgic to see a zombie movie back in theaters.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy, though. Do you want to take a guess what the budget for this was?
Tell me.
$60 million.
That's so fucking cheap.
Is it? For a zombie movie? I don't know. I feel like they could have gotten away with this for like 45. And even then I'd be like, damn, really? Reviews for it, though, to their credit, very positive. So they spent their money well, I guess.
Have you watched any of the original movies?
I've seen the start of 28 Days Later.
Same.
The first 2 acts. Because it was like a TV thing.
That is something I think is going to be weirdly lost to like this upcoming generation.
Mm-hmm.
Watching movies on TV, it was a good way to partially watch a movie.
Yeah.
But with like streaming on demand and whatnot, there's like no way people are going to just partially watch something unless they hate it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. That's a weird cultural memory we're losing.
Red Letter Media were doing one of their best of the worst type of things, and they were talking about a children's movie that a bunch of them had seen because it was syndicated so heavily on TV and it had become kind of notorious because of that. And exactly that. You just wouldn't have that happen with today's youth because there is no syndication like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to watch a 6 out of 10 movie 5 times because it's the only thing on TV. You're going to go watch something better. I guess there's an open question as to whether that's good or not.
I think it's definitely not so much good or bad.
Yeah.
However, I think it is a cultural difference in how we look at media because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've lost a lot of tolerance for bad movies. Because you always have that object of like, why should I watch this if there's something better I can get instantly? Whereas I think before we had a lot more tolerance to just say like, this is kind of a piece of shit, but I'm going to find some enjoyment in it, or at least kind of think on it. You know? Like there was like room for meditation and like all that bullshittery.
I do like that there has become this sort of YouTube niche of old guys watch bad movies and talk about them. It kind of keeps that alive a little bit.
Okay, controversial opinion. I might show my boomerness right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is a point in bad movies. Bad movies still have value.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What was it? I can't remember the exact context of it, but there's a concept that has stuck around with me for a while where watching, I think it was related to playing bad video games, and it was like a reviewer or something that somebody was asking, like, well, why do you, because they were not like going out of their way to review any particular type of video game. It's like, why do you waste your time on these bad games? And part of that was talking about because seeing the bad stuff gives you the appreciation for when you see something that comes around that's a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's like, okay, yeah, it could be better, but this isn't bad. The fact that this exists at all and it functions and it's doing what it's supposed to do is a testament in itself.
I just, I feel like we're going to lose that. And I think, like, it's kind of like you remember this conversation. I remember distinctly having this conversation with you. The letter grade phenomenon.
Yeah.
So, like, you say something that's a 6 out of 10. You're not saying it's bad, but if you put that in, like, letter grade material, that's a D.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the world definitely see, like, a lot of younger generations, like your and my generation, do see that, like, mediocrity as a failure, when really it is just, a thing. Like, fucking Strange World. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that movie a lot recently. I might be the world's #1 Strange World fan at this point. Because, quite frankly, every time I think about that movie, I just keep thinking, where was the sauce in that whole fucker? And, like, I don't know, man. Like, I'll say this. I think I've thought about Strange World more than I've thought about, like, fucking Oppenheimer at this point. And I think that's only just that generational tolerance for, like, I can enjoy things, not enjoy, but, like, I can deal with shit being mediocre.
I think there's something really important to be said for watching things that are flawed but not bad from the perspective of trying to understand why. Yeah. If you watch something like Oppenheimer that's like, yeah, this is a, Oscar, like a day one, everybody's like, oh yeah, this is going to win all the awards. Like, okay, great. I'll watch it once. It'll be enjoyable. But there's not much to discuss there. There's not a question as to why is this good.
I think
Whereas there is stuff to be learned on the other side. Like, why didn't Strange World land?
Yeah, you can learn a lot by just kind of thinking about where something went wrong. It's like the old fucking adage, the more you fail, the more you learn.
Yep.
And, like, even watching those failures, you can learn something from it.
Yeah. In the same vein, there's a piece that I heard recently talking about the process of becoming, not like the best at something, but competent at something, is that you're always going to hit a point where you feel like you kind of suck, where you know what you're doing, but you don't know how to do it fully yet, and the output from that isn't what you want it to be. It's not as good as you want it to be, and that is always going to be a part of learning something new. I think it was in relation to talking about like AI in schools, right? Where a big part, this is what this argument was, a big part of why that is so prevalent right now, where kids were reluctant to just explicitly cheat before, is that going through that part of feeling like I'm not doing as good as I want to be sucks. And AI tools give them a way out of that doesn't feel like cheating.
I honestly think
they're also not
failure is
learning
where
at
the
that
heart of
point.
the art is.
Yeah, because they're not learning at that point. You're not learning how to do research or construct arguments if you're just punching words into an LLM.
Yeah. Fuck. Like, I got 1 C in my whole career in college, and it was ironically in a writing course. And, like, I'm not gonna lie, my pride was hurt that day, and everything I consider in writing nowadays, like, because I'm fucking working on that book still, is literally just like, okay, where did I go wrong in this one class all these years ago, and how do I do better than that?
Here's a fun chiral fact. A big part of the reason, not a big part, a part of the reason why I ended up going into chemistry in college was because chemistry was one of my weakest subjects in high school, and I knew I could do better. Yeah. Like, honestly, if I was just going by, like, what I was best at, I should have gone into some sort of math, easily. But I didn't want to do the thing that I was good at. I wanted to do the thing that I was not as good at, that was still challenging me.
You see, I was a little bit that way with the journalism degree I got. I originally thought music, because I'm fucking good at music and whatnot, but, like, obviously there's no real pragmatic application of it, like, in the job market for that.
Right.
If you want to go into a very specialized field, perfect. You know, that's it. However, I was under the impression of I don't know what I want yet. So I thought English. I probably would have excelled with an English degree. Because, you know, that's more generalized, more substantive, writing all over the place, and, like, dissecting literature and whatnot. However, I ended up going with journalism and communications because I really liked the idea of learning writing as a pragmatic approach instead of, like, necessarily a creative discussion or open forum on discussions. And that was just, like, there's a whole genre difference over there. Why the fuck not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this, kids, is why you don't go to college. Go home and stay mining cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. That's a thing, I'm sure.
Just be mediocre for the rest of your life and don't fucking fail.
Yeah. That, sure.
Yeah. You know,
don't try.
Don't
go to school, don't try.
Failure is fucking scary. And you know what? Fuck it. Only watch top class peak material and then pretend like your opinion matters more than anybody else because you've seen the same 5 fucking movies over and over again.
Go ahead, make that 10,000th video review of The Dark Knight. We definitely need one more.
Nothing pisses me off, right, than people who just talk about the popular shit and they're like, actually, here's why The Dark Knight's actually a shitty bullshit movie. I'm not, like, upset about the contrarian opinion, because, like, it took me a while to like The Dark Knight. However, I think I'm more upset about the fact that we're still talking about the fucking Dark Knight and we're not talking about mall rats.
I will say, though, I don't know if we actually talked about this. Did you hear that Dogma is, like, back?
Yes, actually, that's kind of what got me into thinking about mall rats.
I was really tempted to try and catch it in theaters. Just didn't have the opportunity to, but yeah. I really hope they just pump out those DVDs. People want them.
Dude, I caught
collapse that eBay market.
I caught a very rare bootleg, like, pirated copy of the movie to watch it for my first time. And, like, Dogma is a more interesting story than it is a movie. Like, the story of its production and the blasphemy behind it. But at the same time, I'm really glad Dogma fucking exists.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated by it because I've been a fan of Matt Damon's work for a while, particularly from, like, having the Bourne movies, seeing those from when I was really young. It's like, oh man, this guy's really good at this shit. So I always would, like, look at his filmographies, right? And be like, Dogma, what's that? Oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, you can't watch it. Great.
Yeah. Did they ever bring Dogma to streaming?
No, the people who had the licenses before, they just would never allow it to be distributed in any form. That's one of the reasons why the DVDs are, like, hundreds of dollars now, is because they just stopped distributing them as soon as they got the smallest amount of pushback from the public because of the content of it, and then they just never started again.
Okay, here's a controversial opinion, right? We failed Kevin Smith as an audience. I think the backlash of Dogma, the backlash of Jersey Girl, and just kind of letting him do his fuck-ass shit that he's been doing lately, I think we lost a very talented, very inspiring voice, and we just let him kind of, we failed him as an audience, you know? I think there's something very special about those Kevin Smith movies that you're not supposed to talk about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they are taboo.
Yeah. Like, okay, like, Mallrats, right? Mallrats is not a good movie. Mallrats is fucking amazing, though, if you have no expectations going into it. And the fact it is the first Stan Lee cameo in all cinematic history is fucking wild.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they got Stan Lee in that movie to talk about, like, the Hulk's cock is just fucking funny to me. And you will never get that kind of reaction out of fucking Oppenheimer. Actually, you know what, Carol? I think I'm going to lay down some hard facts right here, right?
So,
I think I don't like Oppenheimer.
I don't know if I disagree.
Because Oppenheimer,
yeah, go for it.
Objectively, very intense, very good movie, right?
Yeah.
But it's been the butt of all my jokes for, like, good movies that mean nothing to me. It's up there with fucking Avatar. It is the critical darling Avatar.
For me, I feel like, because I don't hate it by any means. I think it's very well made. It's obviously good. I saw it in theaters. I did the Barbenheimer thing, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did Barbenheimer too. Yeah.
I have had zero inclination to try and watch it again.
I've never recommended it to anybody. Every time I've talked about it with, like, someone who hasn't seen it, I've always said, it's a good movie. I don't know if you necessarily would like it, but I think I enjoyed my time in the theater about it. Mm-hmm. Nah. I think a movie that doesn't inspire the passion in me to talk about it more in depth or to recommend it directly to people despite my own opinions of how they would appreciate the work is a failed piece of art.
Yeah.
I think I might be speaking a little contrarian out of my ass about this, but this is just what I'm feeling at the moment.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I do wonder if Oppenheimer intends to be art, if that makes sense.
It's a surgical movie, so I wouldn't be surprised if not.
Yeah, because it obviously has artistic parts, and there's stuff that, like with the difference between black and white and color presentation, right? They cut back and forth between that, but it's very, for the most part, dry and almost like a documentary at points.
Yeah, but what's the point of it then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably you could argue that it's meant to highlight the nuclear program in the United States and how its creator came to, sort of revile it. But yeah, I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. Other than just shitty on Oppenheimer, I think I'm good. Anything you want to introduce to the topic?
I think so. I was going to point out, though, something that I did find really interesting here. I was curious because I've actually found, and I'm going to be trying to do this at some point if I can find a good bundle, but if you ever go onto the Goodwill website, you can find bundles of like 30 DVDs for like $10.
Yo, what?
And a lot of them are like actually good DVDs. So there was one, I deleted it because I just didn't want to deal with it at the time, but you can get like Lord of the Rings original trilogy, all 3 movies for like $6. There was one that was a bundle of a bunch of stuff that had the full Batman, so like Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. It had Terminator 1 and 2. It had fucking just a bunch of like actually good action movies and a bunch of crap. But it's clearly like a bunch of movies that somebody just brought in and donated, right? Didn't go through them, just chucked them in a pile, took the picture, slapped it online, and it's like $10.
I'm sure they're probably like the I don't know. I don't know much about DVD technology, so I'm going to shut up. They have instruments on here. That's wild.
What I was going to point out, though, is that on the public interest, the Zeitgeist, the continued interest on Oppenheimer, on Amazon right now, you can buy a 4K Blu-ray for $21. If you wanted to buy a 4K Blu-ray of Interstellar, it's $28. And that's a lot older movie. People have been buying that for a while. So, capitalism sucks, but the market does speak.
I will agree with this. I didn't realize you could actually buy shit on fucking Goodwill.com.
Right?
Like, they have a fucking book section.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Books, movies, music. Yeah. I've been watching Dankbots for a while, and he does his sort of like specials almost, where he goes to their version of, like, it's not quite Goodwill, but it's like half Goodwill, half pawn shop, called Cashies, cash inverters. And he'll just go and buy random crap and just show what he got as like a fun aside from his normal stuff. And a lot of the times he finds like VHS tapes and movies and stuff. And it's just like, man, I wish we had that here. It's like, wait a minute. We do. It's just called Goodwill. We don't think about it as an online shop.
This is so wild to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure the books are actually going to be very cheap too.
Oh yeah, it's also because for the Goodwill, they don't want it's cheaper for them. It's more profitable for them to just take the picture, throw it up online, let it sell for whatever it is, than to try and go through the effort of figuring out what's actually worth something. Because in reality, a lot of it's not worth that much. You know, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's really, really good, obviously, but it's been printed to death. So any particular copy, who cares? Same thing with a lot of the Star Wars VHS tapes, right? You'll find episode 1, 2, 3 VHS tapes on there a lot, and it's like, oh wow, they have the original VHS tapes. That's so cool. Until you go out on eBay and it's like, oh yeah, these are just super cheap because they made a shitload of them, because who would have guessed Star Wars is popular? Stuff like that.
So, do you know about the book Infinite Jest?
I do.
So, I've been wanting to read that. I'm trying to catch up on my backlog so I can get new books and just kind of like get new thoughts in my mind. I went to Barnes & Noble this weekend and I found a copy. $25. I don't know if I want to spend that much on a book I'm not going to get to for like another year.
Yep.
$11 on Goodwill. That's reasonable.
Totally.
Damn. Okay, well, I know what I'm doing all afternoon. What will you be doing, Kyril?
Laundry.
Fair. That's another thing I wish I had around here. For the life of me, we don't have any fucking laundry system in my apartment, so we have to go to Sam's, the infamous Sam's Brothers.
Yes. I had to do that for so long. I had to go to my parents. Like, basically, whenever I was there, I'd bring a basket of laundry and run 1 or 2 loads, and having them just in my apartment or my condo is so fucking nice. Honestly, so I was like, it's underrated, but like I underrated it for a while. Just the prospect of having that access. I just got used to doing it for so long, you know.
Yeah. You get to day that in your schedule.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
Or you just do it whenever there's like, you know, you had a half hour, you're waiting for something, you just throw a load of laundry in, because why not?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Miss Orion, and I've been a Schmo.
And I'm Kyril, and I've been a Schmo.
And any words you want to give Houdini?
Be a good boy, Houdini. I'm sorry you lost your window.
He is not speaking. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.